And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're previewing Week 8. Almost at the halfway point. No buys this week. Tons of heavy road favorites. Kind of a weird week to dissect, but I'm with my best friend, my good-looking friend, Mr. Eric Hornsey. He's rocking Bears lid. The Bears had a bye week last week. They're back this week in prime time, actually, moving out the Eagles and Bengals. We'll obviously talk about that in a bit. But Mr. Hornsey, how we doing?
I'm good, Brandon. I'm good, and I'm looking forward to Sunday. We're watching the Eagles game together, so that will be fun. It'll be a fun day.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of football to talk about because no one's on a bye. I don't understand. Why do we have bye weeks in week 5, in week 6, and week 7, and then week 8 we just decide no bye weeks? I don't really understand this quirk in the schedule.
Schedule makers don't have an easy job. I'm not gonna chirp them. It's got to be stressful. So
it's easy. Come on, you just got to figure out if there's concerts at the stadium and whatnot.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about it. Let's come at the gate hot here. The Arizona Cardinals on the road to play the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites. Tua Tagovailoa is back, Hornsey. What do you make of Tua's return? And they're back in the favorite column. We haven't seen this in a while.
Yeah, Tua is back. If you recall, when he first was ruled out with a concussion a few weeks ago, the spread moved about 6 points. That feels warranted considering what we saw at quarterback without Tua. It was pretty bad and tough beat last week for anybody who followed one of my locks last week. It was a tough week overall. I went 0-3, but the Dolphins, they felt like the right side. They just couldn't get over that hump. And I was really disappointed in McDaniel's game plan. It was centered around Jonnu Smith, and Alec Ingold was getting touches. Now you got to assume with Tua, it's going to be heavy back to Tyreek and Waddle again. So I'm going with the Dolphins, but I don't love it enough to have it as a lock.
Do you know Miami right now is dead last in points per game on offense with 11.7?
Yeah, they trotted out Tim Boyle, man. As soon as I saw Tim Boyle take the field, I was like, well, that ticket's dead. It's over. Yeah. Tim Boyle.
They have 11.7 points per game. The next team is the New York Giants at 31st with 14.1. Miami's almost 2.4 points lower than the next ranked team. And of course, Tua is going to help that situation. Miami's defense is quietly playing good football this season. They're first in passing yards allowed per game, 4th in yards per game allowed, 10th in EPA per play. And the Arizona Cardinals offense is kind of like if Kyler Murray can get out of the pocket and scramble a lot, then that will work. But Miami's allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks as well. I actually like this spot for Miami. I like the 3.5 here, starting off with a favorite. And one more key reason why I think is the Cardinals defense is getting absolutely shredded in the interior part. So the 10 to 20 yard mark, they're dead last in EPA per play allowed in the 10 to 20 yard through the air. And guess who's pretty good at throwing those balls? Tua Tagovailoa. And Tyreek Hill and Jaden and Waddle, I think, should have a nice game. So I think the Dolphins can cover the spread.
Nice. Is it a lock for you, or are you just taking Dolphins?
It's not a lock. Going to take the minus 3.5. All right.
Same.
Next up, New York Jets -7 on the road to play the New England Patriots. The Jets defense just got carved up by the Steelers last week, and DJ Reed and Michael Carter should be back for this game. Brandon Eccles was getting shredded by the Steelers passes catchers. George Pickens had his way with him. The Jets are just the most chaotic team in the league. Do you have a lean in here?
Again, another team that last week I was on the Jets and they let me down, so it's hard for me to go back with them again. I'm not making a lock, but I am going to take the Jets, and it's more of just a fade of the Patriots. More than anything in this game, I like the over. I should start with that because I do like both teams' matchups on offense. I would be hesitant in taking the Jets just because Mayo called out his defense last week.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Do you think this is a good thing, though, or a bad thing?
Exactly.
It's hard to get a read on this.
Antonio Pierce played this card, and he said business decisions after a press conference, and they did cover the next week. That was against Deshaun Watson and the Browns. This is a different animal. I could see a world where the locker room is turning on Mayo early. So, to be honest, overall, I want nothing to do with this game. If I had to make a bet on it, it would be the over, because like I said, I like both offenses matchups here, but division game, asking the New York Jets, who have not looked good, to cover by more than a touchdown on the road. That's a tough bet.
I have the Jets -7. We have precedent for this game. The Jets' best game of the year was against the Patriots earlier this season. They rolled New England. I know, and it was only a few weeks ago too. It wasn't like I know the Patriots have a couple injuries on defense as well, but I think if there's a time to bounce back in New York, like if there's a time for the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams thing to all kind of come to fruition, I think it's this week. And you brought up the Mayo quotes. I actually think this could be like a negative. Like you're calling your team soft, and your old head coach Bill Belichick is going on the Pat McAfee show and like saying they're not soft. Like it's kind of a mixed message, in my opinion. So I think the Jets. I'll take the Jets -7, but again, I don't love it. I'm with you.
Right on.
All right, the Philadelphia Eagles on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. My main note in this one is like, are these teams frauds or are they not? Like this is kind of like a big. We're gonna find out a lot about these two football teams in this football game. I'm gonna pass the ball to you here. I'm curious what your take is here.
All right. Well, I think it's hard to say would I label either of these teams frauds overall. If I split them into their offenses and defenses, I would label both defenses frauds, and that's why my first lock of the week is going to be the over in this game, 47.5. I love both teams' matchups offensively. The Bengals defense is really going to struggle versus a team with two good wide receivers. They've done well the last few weeks against teams that really only have one option outside as a wide receiver. Same thing kind of can be said about the Eagles. If you look at the quarterbacks they've played over their last 4 games, they did well against Derek Carr and Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson, but Baker Mayfield lit them up with 2 good wide receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So I think both teams are going to air this ball out quite a bit, and I like both wide receivers all 4 wide receivers in this game to have good games. So give me over 47.5.
So you're saying you should parlay Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins plus 100 yards each and get rich off of it.
I really like all matchups for all 4.
Yeah.
So I don't see a world where these teams are punting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be whoever has the ball last wins, I think.
Yeah. I actually have in my notes, Warder is taking over 47.5 as his lock. I knew this was coming. I literally have in my notes at the bottom here. I knew it was coming. Me. Yeah. So the Eagles defense has more sacks than points allowed over the last 2 games. But like you said, it's game against Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson. Daniel Jones was atrocious last week. One of the worst quarterback performances, I think, of the year by anyone. And you brought up the Baker Mayfield thing. I still can't get that game out of my head when it comes to the Eagles defense. And I think Joe Burrow is going to have success in this one. I'm not going to lie. I do believe that the over would be the right play and the most points here than rather picking each side. I think Saquon Barkley could have also a really good game. The Bengals are dead last in rushing success rate right now and 30th in EPA per rush. And we talked about it there in the offseason and early in the season. The Bengals' run defense is bad, and it's kind of coming to fruition as well. I'm going to take the Eagles minus or plus 1.5. I don't love it, but I get my birds as an underdog. I'm going to hop on board.
Yeah, I was close to taking Bengals, but since we're watching together, I decided on the over instead.
Oh, well, you got to make a pick against the spread here. What you got?
Against the spread, I will take Bengals just because they're at home, and I think they'll have the ball last. But for the lock, I didn't want to watch the game with you rooting hard against your birds.
All right, the Green Bay Packers on the road. They're 4.5-point favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars. My Packers, I went 2-1 against.
I think you got to recheck that spread because we've had some late line movement here. This is 3.5 now.
It's 3.5. Okay, you're right. I'm looking at the FanDuel page now. Okay, so it was 3.5. So it's dropped by a point since when I clocked it when I did all these yesterday. So Packers minus 3.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's actually going to come and play for me pretty nicely here. The Jaguars
are we on the same thing here?
Yeah, the Jaguars spent 2 weeks in London. Now they're coming back. They got a nice win. But I'll let you start because I think we're both going to be on the same team here.
Yeah, this is a lock for me. I really like the Green Bay Packers minus 3.5. I was prepared to take them at 4.5. I like it even more at 3.5, and it's an angle that I've been playing this year, and it's how bad this Jaguar pass defense is. Patriots went up the field and scored no problem first drive. They struggled after that, but Jordan Love is he just has so many more weapons. I really think Green Bay is going to have a lot of success versus Jaguars defense.
Mm-hmm. So the Packers are second in explosive play rate on offense. The Jaguars are 31st in explosive play rate on defense. I think you're going to see a bunch of chunk plays from the Packers. The only thing the Jags can kind of hang their hat on is getting after the quarterback. Like if they can get a good pass rush, then they'll have success because the back end's so bad. The Packers are very good at avoiding sacks. Like Jordan Love is 28th or I guess 4th in sack rate so far this season. He's 3rd in pressure rate allowed. Like he's very good at not taking deep losses when he's in the pocket. I just think this is like the Jacks will look good last week, but I don't think this is the team that it is going forward. You know what I mean? Like I think it was
they're the Walking Dead. They're the Walking Dead. They know what they're up against, and they know they're not gonna be able to climb that mountain. And if this becomes 14-0 early, you could see a give up from the Jaguars.
And we know Trevor Lawrence is very susceptible to turnovers. He hasn't turned the ball over a bunch this season, but in years past he has. And the Packers are 4th in EPA per play generator right now on defense total because they're so good at getting turnovers. Like Xavier McKinney has been a monster. The Packers pass rushes came alive. They're up to 12th in pressures so far and 11th in sack rate. So I'll put it my second favorite bet because I have my favorite bet later, but I was all over the Packers as favorites in this one.
We're on the same page.
All right, we got a lock. We're locking it in together. All right, Falcons -2.5 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Poor Bucs fans, all 12 of you out there, just decimated. My parents are actually headed to the 49ers Bucs next week in Tampa Bay, and my mom's like, I don't get to see Chris Godwin. And I was like, yeah, well, you'll still have fun. But the Falcons come to town this week. They're just decimated by injuries. The Godwin one sucks. Mike Evans now going to be out at least a minimum of 3 weeks, it looks like. And then he'll come back after the bye, I believe was the reporting. But what do you make of this NFC South matchup?
Yeah, so we saw these teams play on a Thursday night a couple weeks ago. It was a doozy of a game. But that was with the 2 stud wide receivers on Tampa playing. Now, this spread a week ago was actually completely flipped. It was Tampa Bay -2.5. Now with the 2 wide receiver injuries, it is +2.5. And I think that's warranted. It might just kind of in a vacuum, 4.5 points for 2 wide receivers. That's a huge swing. But I think in Tampa Bay's case, that makes sense because their depth chart really falls off a cliff after those 2 guys. Both those guys were over... They combined for over 900 yards so far this season. They'd been really, really productive. They've kind of revived Baker Mayfield's career. And I don't see how this offense works without those 2 guys on the field. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the Falcons, but I don't love it enough to bet it because we did just watch the Falcons beat this Bucs team with those 2 wide receivers. So in theory, they should beat them easier this time, but I don't love it enough to bet it.
And the Falcons didn't look very good at all last week against the Seattle Seahawks. This matchup, I think, plays well for the Falcons offense. We saw it like on the Thursday night game. The Falcons throw the ball at the 4th most rate. The Bucs defense allows the 2nd most pass completions in the NFL, and they're 28th in pass offense success rate. So I think this could be a bounce back spot for Kirk Cousins. I'm going to take the Falcons -2.5, but again, I don't love it. I like Jalen McMillan, but he struggled. Like he got benched for like Sterling Shepard kind of as the season went on, and now Trey Palmer is back. Like they don't even know who the 3rd wide receiver is on this team. So we don't even know if you're a Bucs fan, you don't even know who's getting the ball the most. It's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of fill in for the injured Godwin and Mike Evans. All right, Baltimore Ravens.
I just want to say I like Luke Cohen, their offensive coordinator, a lot. So I want to see his game plan. If he cooks up something good, I think the Bucs could be sneaky down the road.
Mm-hmm. The Baltimore Ravens 9.5 point favorites on the road against the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston is finally getting his first start with the Browns. This should have been weeks ago. Baltimore cooked on Monday Night Football against this Bucs team. What is your thinking on this AFC North matchup?
Well, we're finally getting Jameis, but equally as exciting, I think, for Browns fans is I think we're finally getting this offensive line as projected. Wyatt Teller was back at practice. That has got to be huge for Kevin Stefanski. I think he's finally going to be able to run the offense he wants to run, which is it's a run-dominant offense, but he hasn't had the offensive line to do it. and he sure hasn't had the quarterback to do anything else. So I'm going to use this game as kind of a data point, see what this Cleveland offense looks like post Deshaun Watson era, because I do think if they do establish the run and then try to throw with play action, they could have some success. This Ravens secondary has been susceptible this year. They're still very good versus the run, but they do kind of have some weak spots in the back end. And on the Ravens side of things, their offense is just off the charts. It's doing things every single week that just impress you. But 8.5 in a division game, especially on the road, is too much for me. So I'm going to side with the Browns.
So it is down to 8.5. I have 9.5 here in my notes. So it looks like there's a ton of line movement.
It has. There's been so many injuries this week.
Mm-hmm. The Jameis thing is interesting too, because quietly Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling this week. Ken Dorsey's going to be calling the plays for the Browns. I don't know what I make, because is it Stefanski's thing, like being a great play caller? Like that's kind of like the juice you get of him from a head coach. So I don't really know how that's going to work. Is that like a favorability thing for Winston? I don't know what to make of it. The Browns are a mess. I'm going to make a lock in this game. It's not going to be the spread. This prop kind of caught my eye, and I couldn't stop looking at it when I was going through the preview show prep. So I'm going to do Cedric Tillman over 38.5 receiving yards in this game. He had 81 last week. He ran 46 routes and had 12 targets last week. The numbers seem very off when considering the Baltimore Ravens have allowed the most yards to opposing quarterbacks through the air this season, and the second most yards to opposing wide receivers this season. So they've been bad against the pass, and you just get half the number from Cedric Tillman last week. Maybe Galaxy bring this thing a little more too, because Jameis Winston was the backup quarterback and third string. Cedric Tillman was down on the depth chart. They probably have a little more chemistry than for, say, a Jerry Jeudy might have. So I really like this number. So I didn't like a lot of spreads this week, so I wanted to mix in a prop. So Cedric Tillman over 38.5 receiving yards is going to be one of my locks.
I like it.
All right. Indianapolis Colts on the road to take on the Houston Texans. Now I got to double check every spread. It is still 5.5. The Texans are 5.5 point favorites. The Texans offense, Warrensy, they're the most disappointing unit in the NFL for me right now. We've been talking about this like every single week, just like what is happening here? I know Nico Collins is hurt, but they're still 26 in offensive success rate right now heading into week 8. This is not something I expected from this team. 19th in EPA. What do you make of another interdivision matchup?
Yeah, I think this could be on paper a get right spot for this Texans offense. Historically in his career, CJ Stroud has torched zone coverage. We know with Gus Bradley what we're getting, and it's a heck of a lot of zone coverage. But on the flip side, it's been Nico Collins that has just absolutely torched this Indianapolis defense in his career. He has 4 games versus Indianapolis, and his lowest number in those 4 games was 116 yards. He has gone over 116 those 3 other games. He's just been lights out versus Gus Bradley. So can Houston's offense kind of replicate something without Collins? That's the question. I am going to take Houston, but again, it's a division game. I don't love it, but I'm not taking this Colts defense, which is going to be heavy zone versus CJ Stroud, who loves playing zone defense.
These teams played each other week 1. It was close. The Colts, I think the Texans won by 2 points in that game. Something that stuck out to me when I went back and looked at it. Anthony Richardson had success on the ground in that game, and the Houston Texans allowed the 4th most yards to scrambling quarterbacks, or I guess 4th most scrambling yards in the NFL this season. It's something that they just haven't been able to figure out when quarterbacks escape the pocket. So if I'm Shane Steichen, I'm really using Anthony Richardson in the ground game here. I'm with you. Like it feels like a bounce back spot for the Texans, but I'm with you with the Nico Collins thing. Like I do think his loss from this lineup is really going to hurt them. I did miss the Browns pick. I'm taking the Browns plus 8.5, and I'm going to take another underdog here. I'll take the Indianapolis Colts plus 5.5, but I don't love it. Those 2 picks I absolutely hate.
Well,
did you lock in a Browns Ravens spread?
Yeah, I took the Browns plus 8.5.
Okay. The Tennessee Titans on the road to take on the Detroit Lions, the biggest spread of the week. The Lions are 11.5 point favorites.
This is the biggest spread of the year so far.
Yeah. Jamison Williams suspended for 2 games due to a PED use. Warnsy, I was thinking about this. So he got a gambling suspension already. He just got a PED suspension. There was rumors that he was getting he had a gun charge and could get suspended for that. We are a gun charge suspension away from him hitting the trifecta of all suspensions. You know, you get the off-field, the gambling, and the PEDs. I don't know what else to suspend him for. A tough start to his career, but do you think the Lions can cover this big old fat 11.5 point spread?
I really dislike large spreads, and this year, large favorites are not covering at all. Tennessee, oh boy, they had a good first quarter versus the Bills and just completely fell apart. Now you remove DeAndre Hopkins from that offense. Calvin Ridley and whoever's playing quarterback at the Tennessee Titans, it's oil and water right now. He's becoming one of the least efficient wide receivers in the NFL. Him getting bumped up to wide receiver 1, I think that's really scary if you're a Titans fan. I guess I got to take the Lions. There's no way you'll ever see me locking in a spread this high, but I can't bet Tennessee right now. They are such a mess.
No, like the play like last week for us, we didn't lock in the Titans against the Bills, but we're like, the Titans defense, it's solid, like they can hang on, but they were they ranked 27th in EPA per play on defense last week. Like they still are susceptible to good offenses, and the Lions are a great offense. They are rolling right now. Since week 3, the Lions are second in pass success rate and EPA. Jared Goff's playing out of his mind. I think it's Lamar Jackson is the MVP favorite. I think Jared Goff deserves love at second. Like this is the best he's looked, especially the last couple of weeks. You were on this.
Somebody has a ticket on him at 25-1. Somebody.
Yeah, baby.
I don't know who.
I'll take the Detroit Lions minus 11.5. But like you said, I'd rather die than put actual hard-earned money on a spread that's over 10.5 if it is the favorite. All right, those are the 1 o'clock games. Warrenzy and I will be back on the other side, breaking down the 4 o'clock games and the night games.
The Double Doink Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is hard. It's especially hard when you don't have someone you can open up to. Not everyone is comfortable talking to their friends and family about their personal matters, or anything that is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is so important to continued success in this world. Therapy is a great way to regroup and get everything off your chest. Insert BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy service, 100% online. They will match you with professional licensed therapists you can trust. You can talk with your therapist however you see fit, via text, phone call, or video chat. BetterHelp has successfully helped over 4 million people worldwide deal with their day-to-day mental health issues. Use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.
And we're back on the Double Doink Podcast. We're breaking down the rest of the Week 8 slate, 4 o'clock games, and night games. So let's go to a banger. The New Orleans Saints on the road to play the Los Angeles Chargers. Another big spread here. The Chargers are 7.5 point favorites. I don't think anyone would have thought they would be 7.5 point favorites at all this season, but they get an absolutely ravaged New Orleans Saints team by injuries. You got something here? Because this one,
I have
absolutely
nothing for this game. This sucks. But I guess if you were to bet this game, I think the only angle you would have is saying, I think the Saints have given up. Mm-hmm. If you think the Saints are going to mail this in and not even play 4 quarters, then I guess you can bet the Chargers minus 7.5. But, that's you won't catch me doing that. That's for sure.
Chargers played well against the Cardinals, I thought, in that Monday night game. I thought they showed a little bit of juice, even though they lost. That pass interference, or that headshot call at the end was a tough one. The Saints offense.
They scored, at the end of the day, 13 points against the Cardinals?
Well, you had the Jalen Reagor fumble, that was the funniest reveal because I completely forgot Reagor was on the Chargers. And then I'm watching that game. I saw the play. I was going, who was that? And then the announcer goes, Jalen Reagor. And I just died of laughing. It was great. Like, he's still doing Jalen Reagor things. The Saints are like the tale of two teams this season. The weeks 1 to 2, they were dominant. They were first in play action rate during those weeks 1 and 2, those 2 game stretch. They're down to 6th lowest. Like, the offense is just completely different with all the injuries. They're not running what they wanted to kick off the season. I have the Chargers minus 7.5, but I hate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Saints plus 7.5 for the sake of the show. Just because I can't – a team that scored less than 20 points against the Cardinals shouldn't be favored by more than a touchdown over anybody, in my opinion.
That's fair. All right, the Buffalo Bills. We actually got to get a game now. Buffalo Bills 3-point favorites on the road to play the Seahawks. Maybe a game of the week here. I love this matchup. Two fun teams. I'll pass the ball to you, Warnsey. What you got?
Yeah, I actually really like this game. My last lock is in this game, and it's not a sexy one. You know what I'm going with. I'm going under 47.5 in this ball game, and it's a lot partly to do with the weather. We're definitely going to have some rain in this game. Wind forecast is up to around 15 miles an hour. So I think it's going to be a ground-heavy attack, especially on the Seahawks side of things, because it looks like DK Metcalf will not go. He did not practice again today. That's a huge loss. I like Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba as players, but I don't think they have the capabilities to step up the ladder. And who's the number one of those two? I don't know. I think that they're really good in the roles that they are, but being asked to do more, I don't think that's something that they're going to excel in. And DK Metcalf's a guy you can't replace. And then on the other side of things, this Seattle defense is getting healthier, and you're seeing what Mike McDonald can do as a coach with this defense when it's healthy. So give me under 47.5. For the spread, I am going to take the Bills. I do think they are the better team, but I like the under more than anything.
Seahawks went out and made a trade this week. They grabbed Ernest Jones from the Tennessee Titans, part of the Tennessee Titans fire sale. I thought it was a huge move. I thought Jerome Baker was terrible this year. He's one of the worst linebackers per PFF and a lot of other stats. So they got a big upgrade there. And you brought up Byron Murphy starting to play well and healthy. And I thought Derek Hall and Boy Mafe were awesome last week. But the Bills are a different animal. Josh Allen's a different animal than Kirk Cousins. He can escape the pocket and make plays. And the Seahawks defense is also 29th in DVOA and 30th in EPA per play against play action. The Bills run that a lot. They're very good at using the play action to open up the middle of the field. I don't know if Ernest Jones is going to come in and shut down the middle of the field right away. So I do like the Buffalo Bills -3 in this game. And another reason why, Geno Smith, I think deserves so much credit for the ball he's playing right now. He's leading the league in passing yards. He's doing everything with a bad offensive line. He's faced the most quick pressures in the NFL as well. To be able to lead the league in passing yards while just getting constantly smothered, I think Geno deserves a lot more credit in the national media than he's getting. But like you said, this is a tough one for me, but I'll take the Bills -3. Very fun game. Probably my favorite game of the week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be a good defensive battle.
All right, we got Warrensy's third lock as the under 47.5. Let's talk about Warrensy's team. The game that got flexed out of Joe Burrow versus Jalen Hurts. We might get Marcus Mariota versus Caleb Williams.
Couple of Heisman winners going at it.
Didn't think of that angle.
And we don't know. Still, no matter what, we're getting the number 1 overall pick versus a number 2 overall pick. Just might not be the same year.
Yeah. We don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing yet in this game. Sorry, the Bears are 2.5-point favorites against the Commanders on the road, but we don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing. He didn't practice Thursday. Dan Quinn did say he's going to try and practice Friday. It's hard to dissect this game from the point spread that's currently given at 2.5.
Well, I really respect Dan Quinn and what he's done so far. I think it's really hard to do. I'm not saying he will do this, but I think there has to be people in that management group who sit down and look at things from the big picture. And is Jaden Daniels playing in this game when, remember, Washington's bye isn't until week 14. He doesn't have a week off next week or anytime soon. It is a late bye. You saw Marcus Mariota play well last week. It was against the Carolina, whatever the heck that is, team over there. But I think it would be kind of malpractice to run Jaden Daniels out here against a good defense and risk further injury. So I'm going to take the Bears -2.5. I think if Jaden Daniels does play, the spread probably becomes a pick'em. If Mariota is announced, you might get Bears -3. So if you do like the Bears, I would lock that in now before it hits that 3. But I'm leaning towards Washington sitting Daniels out and thinking long term.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this because I think you have a better read on just what books do with this kind of thing. My read on it was the books are saying Jaden Daniels isn't going to play. That's why it's
right. It might not even get to 3. You're right.
Yeah, okay. Because this is going to be my third lock. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears -2.5. One, if it's Marcus Mariota does play, I'm fading his ass. I'm sorry. He looked good last week. Panthers are the worst defense in the NFL right now. I saw Mariota play with the Eagles. I saw I know what Marcus Mariota is. Okay, he's not good. I don't give a fuck if he looked good last week. I don't think he's good. And if Jaden Daniels does play, you get Jaden Daniels with a broken rib. Are the Commanders really going to be running him out on a lot of bootlegs, trying to let him make plays? I don't know, like in a broken rib or whatever the rib injury is, it's hard to throw with. Like, I think you're getting a 80% version of Jaden Daniels rather than the 100% version where he's been so good. The Bears defense is 4th in total EPA per allowed on the season, and they have a bye week. Think about that. They're also best against the pass so far, according to EPA. The Commanders are 26 against the run, according to EPA. And the Bears defense is susceptible to quick game passes. They're 25th in DVOA against that. The Commanders are not good at doing that. They're the best when Jaden Daniels is pushing the ball deep downfield. So I think this is a great matchup for Chicago. I think they're a much better team with Mariota at 2.5. And I think if Jaden Daniels does play, you might be able to get the Bears as like what, a +1 favorite or +1 underdog, something along those lines. It's tough to say, but I like the Bears no matter who's playing quarterback for Washington. That is my final one.
Bear down, baby. Bear down.
On
the Bears side of things defensively, Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon haven't practiced. That's very alarming considering it's coming out of the bye. So the secondary might be a little banged up, but I don't think Mariota's taking advantage of that because right now the number, it's hard to say. I have Patrick Surtain as the number 1 cornerback in the NFL, but Jalen Johnson's not far behind him. He's allowed the fewest yards per target in the NFL so far this year. I think he shuts down McLaurin.
When I was digging up Quinion Mitchell stats this week, I was blown away how good Jalen Johnson was. He didn't get enough love. Yeah. He's playing really damn well. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs, 9.5-point favorites on the road to play the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs, again, active in the trade market. Another team getting DeAndre Hopkins. When I was thinking about this trade, I was going like the Chiefs haven't had a receiver like Hopkins in a very long time, like just like a big X receiver, like a guy that can work the outside. I know, but like look at their team. It's like Xavier Worthy, McCole Hardman, like Justin Watson, these speed guys. Yeah, like this is a different guy than the Chiefs have had. So I'm very curious to see if it will work. Hopkins hasn't been great this season. He was all right last year. He popped in that one Will Levis game. I can't remember who they were playing, where Levis had 4 touchdown passes, a couple of deep ones to Hopkins. We were at the casino that game. That's kind of what sticks out in my mind. Hopkins had 2 touchdowns in that one, but like that's kind of it for him. It's tough to say how much he has left in the tank, but I think it's a low. The Chiefs always do this. They go with the low risk, high reward trades. Like it's a 4th round pick if they make the Super Bowl, a 5th round pick. Why not go get him? So I'm curious to see how it works. But what do you have in this game?
Yeah, I see both sides to the Chiefs trading for Hopkins. I think he's really been on the decline, but he is still good versus zone coverage. And Rashee Rice was an absolute zone killer. So I think he's going to try to be a little bit of what Rice is. He's going to try to be Rice light and just sit in zones and catch balls down the field because Patrick Mahomes is still not throwing the ball downfield whatsoever. Everything is short and intermediate. Or actually not even intermediate. Everything is short. It's the shortest yards per attempt since the yards per attempt stat has been calculated. So, and they haven't lost a game. It's insane what they're doing. But with that being said, 9.5 points against a team, the Raiders beat them last year on Christmas. It was an absolute Christmas miracle. But
I forgot about that one.
I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes haven't forgot about that, and they're gonna put the boots to this Raiders team, which I think is trending in the wrong direction. And off the top, I wanted to bring it up. I think Antonio Pierce needs to be investigated for his that piece of work what he put on tape last week by kicking a field goal down 8 to beat my spread. He had +7. There's no way he didn't. There's no excuse for that unless he bet +7.
I put it out on Twitter and someone was like, he wanted to stick it to the bettors. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
That is why he kicked a field goal.
He did not want to win that game. He wanted to cover.
That was one of the worst coaching decisions of the year. And he's had multiple of those. Like Pierce, I actually wouldn't be surprised at this point if Pierce is one and done with Vegas. Like, what's the point?
I think they're regretting the hire for sure.
And now with Brady getting an ownership, like I think Brady's gonna have a big say in kind of what goes on in that building going forward, and like he's gonna want to start fresh and whatnot. So I think Pierce is kind of a dead man walking. the Raiders defense was supposed to be what held them up this year, right? If you were a Raiders fan and you were thinking, what's our path to the playoffs?
Well,
it has to be the defense, right?
It was supposed to be the great defensive line, but Wilkins has been lost for the season, and that's just a blow a defense like that couldn't handle.
Yeah, like they're 18th in EPA per play right now, so they're below average, and like without a good defense, this team's going nowhere. I have the Chiefs minus 9.5. I don't love it, but one more quick Mahomes stat I thought was interesting. Mahomes inside the pocket this year is 39th in QBR. Outside the pocket, he's second. Think about that. And it actually makes sense when I'm watching him. It doesn't feel like he trusts his protection as much this year. He's rolling out a lot more, but he's making plays on the right. He's still that kind of Mahomes-esque. So if you're the Raiders, you got to contain him, keep him in the pocket, and stop Max Crosby.
Easier said than done.
Exactly. All right, Chiefs minus 9.5 for both of us. All right, Carolina Panthers on the road to take the Denver Broncos. Take on the Denver Broncos. Bryce Young is back, Wardsy, your boy. Andy Dalton involved in a car crash. He hurt his thumb. So Bryce Young, did you see the meme of the little kid driving the car? I can't
believe I'm laughing at that. I shouldn't laugh at that. But
did you see the meme of the little kid driving the car? It's like Bryce Young leaving the scene. It's like,
no, I didn't. Oh man,
the Panthers every single week, man, just constant content. I can't believe the Broncos are 9.5 point favorites in a football game.
Buddy, it's 10.5 now.
It's up to 10.5.
It's 10.5 right now, and Bo Nix, in a world where Deshaun Watson doesn't exist, Bo Nix has been the worst starting quarterback this year. That's with a minimum of 4 or 5 games played. So Bryce Young might have reached that status if he had the games played. But for Bo Nix to be favored by 10.5, what world are we living in? Now, you would not ever see me bet the Panthers, so do not worry. I'm not doing that. I did that week 1. I learned my lesson early. I'm not going back to them. But wow, Bo Nix favored by 10.5. Last week, they covered easily against the Saints, but Bo Nix was a bottom 5 quarterback in terms of EPA per play on the week. Like it's not been pretty for Denver, but I'm not taking the Panthers plus 10.5, so I guess I'll lock in minus 10.5. Or not lock it in, but I'm taking it.
The Broncos are first in total defensive EPA per EPA this year. Like their defense is playing lights out. It's funny. I saw a report from Diana Rossini this weekend where teams are eyeing Bryce Young and calling the Panthers to see if they can trade for him. If you're the Panthers, you're going, oh, fuck, our value for Bryce Young is already low, and now we're going to throw him out against Denver's defense, and now the value is just going to get even lower. Like this is a nightmare scenario for Carolina. I'm going to take the Panthers plus 10.5. Why not? I already have too many big spreads locked in. Keep it within 10 points, Bryce. I love you. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah,
but I don't love
we talked too much about this game.
Yeah, let's move on. Sunday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys on the road to take on the 49ers. The 49ers are 4.5 point favorites. The Brenden Ayuk injury is massive, man. That's a tough loss for San Francisco. Deebo Samuel was also hospitalized with pneumonia. It sounds like he's going to be all right and play, though.
Do you buy that?
Well, he was hospitalized. Like
I heard he was
going on.
shooting hoops at the facility yesterday.
He's been out of the hospital for a couple of days. But
so what is it? Like he was on the sidelines on Sunday.
Yeah,
he was hoops on Wednesday. Like if you have pneumonia, you're not around people. That's a contagious disease.
He was also like reported on the injury report for an illness and then played, and I played a few snaps and was out. He did look sick when they showed him jogging off the field. Like there was something going on, but maybe pneumonia is a little too. Maybe they're kind of boosting up the credibility.
I don't know. Biggest game of the year against the Chiefs, Super Bowl rematch. He looked like he didn't want to be there. I don't know. I just want to see him fight through that. I don't know, especially when Ayuk goes down.
Ricky Pearsall, the guy that got shot in the chest 2 months ago, is the healthiest wide receiver on the 49ers right now. Like Juwan Jennings is banged up. Not even wide receiver, pass catcher. George Kittle's also dealing with some injuries. So the 49ers right now have 30 pass attempts in 5 games this season. They only had 30-plus pass attempts in 5 total games last season. They're relying too much on the drop-back pass game. It doesn't look like the 49ers offense than did in previous years, right? Like something looks off with this team. I think this is the perfect time to kind of bounce back against a Cowboys defense that's dead last in EPA per rush. Feed Jordan Mason, allow this run offense to kind of get going, and then get the pass behind it. So I'm going to take the 49ers minus 4.5 in this one. Dallas, Micah Parsons is not supposed to play. He did not practice again on Thursday. He's huge. He is their best player. If he's not playing, I have a hard time backing the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys are coming off a bye, but I'll rally around the 49ers -4.5 at home here.
Yeah, along with Parsons, De'Aaron Bland hasn't practiced yet either. So I think it's a get-right spot for the 49ers. I don't really have much to add. I'm going to hop on board that with you, -4.5.
All right. Final game. Can we please stop putting the Pittsburgh Steelers on primetime? I beg of you. They are 6.5-point favorites against the New York Giants. And also the Giants. No one wants to see them on primetime. This is our Monday Night Football matchup. No more doubleheaders. Only one Monday Night Football this week. Okay. I watched the entirety of the Giants-Eagles game last week, and I have never been more confident that Daniel Jones is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He was brutal. We talked about it earlier.
Brutal.
The Daniel Jones era has never been more over in New York. I feel bad for Giants fans that they have to continue to watch and play for the rest of the season. I would just throw in Drew Lock at this point and see what you got in him, because Daniel Jones is terrible. And on the other side, Russell Wilson played really well last week. He was fourth in EPA per play out of all quarterbacks in week 7.
God, you're kidding me.
I don't know if this is going to last. I have no idea what to make of the Steelers going forward. Mike Tomlin took a little victory lap saying that this is why they pay him a lot of money, because he can make decisions like this to start Wilson. It looked good in last week, but what you got in this dog fight of a Monday Night Football game?
It's ugly, but I'm going to side with the Giants +6.5. Historically, the Steelers do not do well as large favorites. 6.5, it's still technically under a touchdown, but I think that's too many points for a Steelers team that tends to play close games. And I kind of just believe in Daboll still. They got their butt whooped last week. I think he's just going to have this team regrouped on Monday Night Football, and they'll lose a close one. The Steelers will win this by a field goal, I think.
I'm going to take the Giants +6.5, and that's all I got. I don't really know what else to say. I took too many large favorites this week. I'm not a fan of the spreads this week.
It's a tough week. There's a lot of large spreads and a lot of injuries.
Yeah. We only have 3 spreads that were locked this week. Morenzi has 2 totals, and I have a prop and 2 spreads as well. So let's recap our picks. Morenzi, start with you. What were your 3 locks?
I am going under 47.5 in the Bills-Seahawks. I am going over 47.5 in the Philly-Bengals game. And you and I are both riding the Green Bay Packers -3.5.
Yep. Green Bay Packers -3.5. The Chicago Bears -2.5. And Cedric Tillman over 38.5 receiving yards. Those are our locks for the week. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That'd be greatly appreciated. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. And we will talk to you later.